You know, when you read a word problem and you feel like your brain is melting, you don't have to feel that way.
I'm Erika with Target Test Prep, and today I want to share a tip to make even the longest, most convoluted GRE word problems manageable. And then we'll apply that tip into GRE word problems from the Target Test Prep course that more than half of students get wrong, plus a bonus question at the end of the video. Word problems strike fear into the hearts of many test takers. Now, some of that has to do with the highly specialized nature of some word problem subtypes, and we'll talk more about that later in this video, but it has just as much to do with the format of the questions. I'm talking extra long question stems with more words than numbers that have to be carefully translated into math, and where if even one word is missed or misinterpreted, the calculations for the entire problem fall apart, leading to a missed question and wasted time and effort. It is demoralizing. I get why so many of my new students dread them. But I'm going to tell you what I tell them, which is that this dread is mostly a product of their approach. Most test takers who really struggle with word problems start by reading the whole problem, feeling that brain melt sensation coming on, reading it again, maybe pulling out one or two pieces of information, and reading it again and again until they feel like they understand the whole problem, or more frequently, they give up on understanding the whole problem because they're running out of time and they need to start solving, which almost inevitably does not go well. It's rarely successful and it feels awful. As an alternative to that, I recommend that test takers instead process one piece of information at a time. And specifically, I recommend that they do this by stopping and writing something down at each piece of punctuation. Now, there are some important details and caveats about applying this trick effectively, which I'll demonstrate in the following two example word problems. All right, pause the video if you want to try this one on your own. This is a fairly lengthy question stem, so I'm going to get started breaking it down. Okay, first sentence. Cam and Francesca were each paid $D to paint a fence, period. Okay, knowing how word problems work, I can reasonably assume that I'm going to get more information about each of these people, Cam and Francesca. So I'm going to go ahead and set up a little table to start organizing this information. So I'm going to have a row for Cam and a row for Francesca. And then I'm going to go ahead and set up a column for dollars. Now, in each of the cells for Cam and Francesca in the dollars column, I'm going to put in D because they were each paid D dollars. Great. All right, second sentence. To complete the job, comma. All right, this is where we're going to use our judgment. This is where our rule gets a caveat. The phrase to complete the job doesn't really tell us anything. There is no need to write anything down at this point. So with this rule, we are going to use our judgment and go, okay, that would be a waste of time at this point. This rule does not serve me for this particular phrase. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next piece of punctuation. Cam worked for 12 hours, comma. Okay, now that is a piece of information that I can do something with. So we are given a time. So I'm going to go ahead and put a new column, time, and I'm going to go ahead and fill in 12 for 12 hours in Cam's row. Moving on again, and Francesca worked for 1/6 fewer hours than Cam worked, period. Stop. Okay, this is phrased in kind of a confusing way, 1/6 fewer hours than. Now, we could use subtraction here, and that's what fewer would make us think we should do. Or we can make our lives easier and realize that 1/6 fewer hours than can be translated to 5/6 the hours of. So filling in my table for Francesca's time, I'm going to fill in 5/6 of, and this is the number of hours that Cam worked. So consulting my table, that is 12. So 5/6 of 12, or quick calculation, 10. Continuing on, after the job was completed, comma. Okay, using my judgment again, this doesn't really give us any information. I'm not going to write anything down. Moving on, Francesca gave Cam $S. Okay, something is happening here. So what does this mean for our table if Francesca is giving Cam $S? Well, it means that Francesca is losing $S. So I'm going to express that in my table as D minus S. But it also means that Cam is gaining $S. So I'm going to express that in my table as D plus S. finishing up our sentence, after which they had earned the same amount per hour. Okay, now we are getting somewhere. So we want to express the amount they earn per hour or money over time. So for Cam, that is going to be D plus S over 12. And for Francesca, that's going to be D minus S over 10. And then because we know they earned the same amount, we're going to set those equal to each other. Now, hold up for a minute. For the first time in this problem, there is some pretty clear calculation ahead of us beyond the one-step calculation of 5/6 of 12. And there is a pretty serious temptation to follow this calculation through to the end. We're processing the information. It can still be processed, but this would be a mistake. Why? Well, the whole point of this exercise of pausing and writing things down at each piece of punctuation is to ensure we don't miss anything from our question stem, to make sure we are taking each piece with us. If we are to proceed at this point with our calculations, there is a very real possibility that once we finish calculating, we will forget to come back for this entire last sentence. And that whatever it is that we solve for in these calculations, we will pick as our answer. So at this point, we have taken all of the information that we have read so far. We have processed it, we have turned it into math. The calculations that are remaining can be done at any point. There is no risk of missing something or becoming overwhelmed. So the right move at this point is maybe to note that there are more calculations yet to do, but to pause and continue with our question stem until we have processed the whole thing. All right, last sentence. In terms of S, comma, all right, I see that my answer choices all have an S in them, like I would expect, but again, nothing I need to write down. Moving on, using my judgment. What was the total amount that Cam and Francesca were paid to paint the fence? Okay, this is what we are solving for. And the word total here is important. We are solving for Cam's pay plus Francesca's pay. Now we know from our first sentence they were each paid D dollars to paint a fence. So our total is going to be D plus D or 2D. Writing that down. That's what we're solving for. Okay, now that I have this written down, we've processed the whole question stem, we can proceed with the calculations we set up earlier. So cross multiplying. I'm going to get 10 times D plus S equals 12 times D minus S, which expands to 10D plus 10S equals 12D minus 12S. Rearranging by doing the same thing to both sides, I'm going to get 22S equals 2D, which, hey, is what I am solving for. So I can stop here and know that 2D equals 22S, which leads us to our correct answer, D. Now, imagine for a minute that we went ahead with these calculations before processing our question stem. We likely would have continued this math by dividing both sides by 2 and gotten that D is equal to 11S. Then we would have looked at our answer choices and gone, oh my gosh, that's answer choice C. Picked it and moved on without ever finding out what it was we were actually solving for, getting the question wrong and wasting our own time. We end up falling into the exact kind of trap that we are trying to avoid. We miss information. So don't get carried away with calculations during the processing process and ensure that the whole question stem gets attention.
Now, if you fell into this trap and picked answer choice C, go check out my video on my #1 math tip. It is a game changer for this exact mistake. Let's try our second example word problem, which is a little bit harder.
Again, pause the video if you want to try this question on your own. This question stem is a bit shorter than on the last problem, but it's a little deceitful in how much information is crammed into it. So starting with the first sentence, one night Mark had a dream in which he grew a constant amount each hour from his original height of 3 3/4 feet, period. Okay, that was an informationally dense sentence. Now, we didn't have any pieces of punctuation, so there were no clues that we should stop any sooner, other than
You may have felt that brain melting feeling creeping back in. I know I did. And that is a clue that maybe there were actually a couple of pieces of information in there, even though there was no punctuation to indicate it. So, what we're going to do here is we are going to use our judgment. Like before, we used our judgment to decide not to stop, even though there was punctuation. Here, we are going to use our judgment to decide, yes, we are going to stop, even though there isn't punctuation. So, we are going to read this again slowly and try to find a discrete piece of information and stop there. One night, Mark had a dream, not super useful, in which he grew a constant amount each hour. Okay, that is information we can do something with. We don't know what this constant amount is, but we can set a variable for it. We can call it x. And we know that he grows this constant amount each hour. So we're going to set another variable, t, for time. So x times t is going to tell us how much he has grown in t hours. Excellent. Continuing on with the much more manageable second chunk of the sentence, from his original height of 3 3/4 feet. So we know that there is an original height that this xt is on top of. So we are going to express that with a constant value. So xt plus that 3 3/4, which I'm actually going to write as an improper fraction because it's almost always easier to deal with an improper fraction than a mixed number. So that's going to give us xt plus 15/4. All right, we now have a linear expression for Mark's dream height, and we are good to move on to the second sentence. All right, at the end of the third hour, comma. Okay, we are given a number of hours, so we can plug that into our expression for height for t. We don't know yet that we're solving for height, but it's a pretty good guess. All right, at the end of the third hour, so we're going to fill in 3 for t, so x times 3 plus 15/4. Moving on to the second part of the sentence, Mark's height, nice, we guessed right, was 1/4 less than his height at the end of the ninth hour. All right, feeling that brain melt start to creep back in, so I'm going to take that a little slower, pausing more frequently. Okay, replaying that. At the end of the third hour, Mark's height, that's what we have so far, was equals 1/4 less than, that translates to 3/4 of his height at the end of the ninth hour. So we're doing what we did before and taking our height expression and plugging in a value for t, this time 9. So x times 9 plus 15/4. And that is what we are taking at 3/4 of. So this sentence gives us this whole equation. So phew, we have an equation, something we can calculate. It's a little messy. It could be simplified. It could even be solved. But let's hold off on that until we finish processing our last sentence. What was Mark's height? Comma. Okay, well, we know, hey, we're probably not just solving for x, we are probably using our height expression once again. Good to know, setting ourselves up mentally. In feet, okay, well, so far we have been given values in feet, so that means we're not going to be doing any funny conversions. There's no trick in that. That's also good to know. After the seventh hour, question mark. Okay, so this is telling us what we're solving for. We are solving for the height at the seventh hour. So we are solving for this expression when 7 is plugged in for t. So we are solving for x times 7 plus 15/4. Writing that down. Okay, now we can return to our equation, which now we can kind of see this is going to give us a value for x, and we're going to plug that value for x into this equation. We can see the shape of the work we are going to do to complete this problem. So I'm going to rewrite this equation a little bit just to put my values in front of my variables. So 3x plus 15/4 is equal to 3/4 times 9x plus 15/4. All right, there's a couple of different things you can do at this point. What I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of this fraction. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 4/3. Okay, on the right side, this is going to cancel, and it's just going to give me 9x plus 15/4. On the left side, I'm going to distribute. The 3's are going to cancel for this first term, and I'm going to get 4x. And then for this second term, the 4's are going to cancel, and I'm going to get 15 over 3, or simply 5. Doing the same thing to both sides to get like terms on the same side, I'm going to get 5, or 20 over 4, minus 15 over 4 equals 9x minus 4x. And then all of that is going to simplify to 5 over 4 equals 5x. Divide both sides by 5, and I get that 1/4 is equal to x. Now, unlike in the last problem, 1/4 is not an answer choice. So if we neglected to translate that final sentence, we would realize at this point that we need to keep doing math. So we'd get lucky here, unlike on the last problem. But we did realize, so it means that we can just move a little faster, and we can plug in 1/4 for x. So plugging in 1/4, we get 1/4 times 7, or 7 over 4, plus 15 over 4. Add those together, we get 22 over 4. That simplifies to 11 over 2, or turned into a mixed number, 5 and 1/2, which is our correct answer, answer choice D. So with this problem, we used that terrible information overload feeling to our advantage as a clue that we actually needed to stop and process more frequently than at every piece of punctuation, which, as we saw in the last problem, is exactly how we should use this tip, not as a prescription, but as a framework, as a guide. So use your judgment. Just like you can move on after a useless comma without writing anything down, you can always stop earlier before a piece of punctuation and process smaller chunks of information.
Now, like I mentioned earlier, there are some highly specialized word problem subtypes that require specific knowledge and unique approaches. Rate questions come to mind as an example. Now, if those are tough for you, I recommend checking out my recent video where I share an advanced trick that simplifies even the most complex rate questions. But even when you have a solid conceptual understanding of each problem subtype, the questions are still presented in a word problem format. The concepts are still buried in text that needs to be correctly translated into math in order to be properly dealt with. This tip allows you to apply your understanding of each subtype in the context you'll see it in on test day. And before I share the bonus problem, I want to digress for a couple seconds because the super cool thing about this tip is that it can and should be applied beyond word problems. It actually provides a framework for almost the entire test. Non-word problem quant questions regularly hinge on small, inconspicuous pieces of information that are really easy to miss if we try to internalize the whole problem at once. Taking the question stem piece by piece is actually one of these 6 underrated tips for data interpretation that I share in a pretty recent video. And the same is also true of the passage arguments and critical reasoning style reading comprehension questions. And honestly, I could stretch this tip to apply to pretty much any question type on the test. But my point is that pausing regularly to digest and interpret as we read across the whole exam can save us from feeling overwhelmed, from missing information, from getting questions wrong, and from wasting our precious time. Now, if you want to practice this tip on your own, here's another hard word problem from the Target Test Prep course with an extra long question stem to interpret. Leave your answer in the comments if you give it a go. If this video helped you, give it a like and subscribe to our channel for more helpful tips and tricks. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.